Welcome to all of you who are here. Happy to see you. We'll get started in a moment. All right, well, we are going to begin. So, welcome all of you. Welcome all of you from around the world. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. I am Farah Shroff, Dr. Farah Shroff, the founder of Health Together. And it is my pleasure to be here to introduce Professor Kiran Kulkarni, who is going to talk about a game that she created to teach people, to teach young people especially about menstruation. And so, without further ado, let me begin that. Yes. Um, so Kiran Kulkarni is an assistant professor at a college in Mumbai, a college of applied art and craft in Mumbai, and she's a visual designer and educator. She's based in Mumbai, and she's the one who created this amazing game called Go with the Flow, a Maharashtrian state award winning board game. So if you think about how girls learn about menstruation, I don't think I've ever heard of them learning about it through a board game. So this is going to be a really interesting way of learning about her process of creating this. So Kiran is addressing menstrual health education through a creative, interactive format. She's got a background in applied arts and a passion for social design, and she focuses on projects that foster learning through play. She's also the co-founder and art director of the Jute House, which is a sustainable brand that promotes conscious living through eco-friendly jute. So please join me in welcoming Professor Kulkarni. And I'll just tell you the fun story of how this all happened is that I met her by chance in Mumbai sometime in February and learned about the work that she was doing. And so here we are a few months later, very, very pleased that we're going to learn about this really amazing process that she has created, one that I hope really gets spread around the world so that more girls can learn about menstruation in a fun way. So please join me in welcoming Professor Kiran Kulkarni. Please go ahead, Kiran.
Thank you so much. I'll share the screen right now. Okay, so hello everyone. Thank you so much for your kind words, Dr. Shroff, and warm greetings from India. Today I'm excited to share Go With The Flow, a board game that I recently designed to help educate young audiences about menstruation while encouraging open conversations across genders and age groups. A little about me, as ma'am already mentioned, I'm a visual designer with a deep love for peacocks, nail art, Indian mythology, psychology, vibrant colors, sustainability, all of these things. Um, Recently I've designed this game, and it has given me a lot of insight, a lot of learnings myself throughout the entire process. And I'm really excited and very nervous at this moment to share everything with all of you here. So, as ma'am mentioned, I'm an educator, and I feel in my role as an educator, I strive to design assignments and activities that blend research, creativity, and practicality, all while keeping aesthetics and engagement at the core. So, as you can see, these are a few assignments that I've done. Um, so the first one here in the left is designing nameplates inspired by retro hand-painted Bollywood movie titles. Uh, the second thing that you can see right across it is turning the anatomy of typography into a fun activity, interactive exploration rather than a dull theoretical task. We also designed, like, as a class project of all 60 students together, we designed that is my personal favorite, where we designed a Uno cards deck, like exclusive artist edition. So basically, my goal is to make learning fun, accessible, and rooted in real world problem solving so that the students can truly engage in what they are learning. So in order to help student learn effectively, I believe it's equally important for me to be learning constantly and stay updated with the new ideas, tools, and approaches that are out there. That's where the Swayam platform comes in. Swayam basically is an Indian government initiative designed to fulfill the three core principles of national education policy, that is, access, equity, and quality. One of the courses I took there was design thinking and innovation, taught by Professor Ravi Puvaya from IDC, IIT Bombay, a course that played a key role in shaping the project that I'm sharing with you all today. So, what is the design thinking and innovation course? A hands on course that teaches you how to identify real world problems, understand user needs, and develop creative practical solutions using the design thinking process. Through observation, research, ideation, prototyping, and testing, students learn to turn ideas into meaningful innovations across any field. So, this was a 16-week long course, and by the end of it, we were required to conceptualize and develop a complete project, which became the starting point of for my game Go with the Flow. So the project was basically, as a part of the course, each student had to design a real world issue aligned with one of UN's 17 Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, and apply design thinking process over 16 weeks to solve it. Since I personally have PCOD, I initially considered working on PCOD awareness. But as I explored the topic, I realized it was a gray area and very complex to simplify within the scope and the time frame that I had. So, in the process, I noticed a more fundamental gap, which was the menstruation itself is perceived and understood, especially among young audiences. So I shifted my focus to period education, and that was aligning with the two SDGs, that is, good health and well being, which is the third sustainable development goal, and quality education. The entire project that I've made has followed the design thinking and innovation process that follows six key stages: research, analyze, ideate, build, test, and implement. At the start, all I had was the topic, the period education. But as I moved through each stage of the process, step by step, the vision became sharper and the solution began to take shape. The beauty of this method is how it lets the problem guide the outcome and not the other way around. So, when I started the research, it was with the secondary research phase, I began identifying the key gaps and challenges, like understanding what's going wrong across various aspects of period education in India, from limited access to information and hygienic products to social stigma, poor school support, and the cultural silence that is there around the topic. So, one of the biggest challenges we see today in India is that girls aged 10 to 14 are completely unprepared for their first period. It's not just about not knowing what menstruation is, it's also lacking the mental, emotional, and physical support that they need. And this is like the major transition in their lives. And that is the main thing where they are very underprepared for. Many girls entering puberty with little or no information leads to confusion, fear, and shame. They may not know what's happening to their body and often don't feel comfortable asking questions because the topic itself is considered very taboo in so many households and schools. According to the National Family Health Survey, only 49 girls of India use hygienic methods of menstruation protection. And that's less than half, which means more than half of the menstruating girls are still using unsafe or unhygienic products, increasing the risk of infections and reinforcing harmful practices. The biggest challenge is the silence and shame around menstruation in many households. It's often not discussed openly, leaving girls confused and alone when they get their first period. Like, at least I remember my mother and aunt had explained me the entire process, why this happens, what is it. But by the time when I actually got my first period, all that information was long gone and I was very scared. At least I knew I had the right parents, I had the right space where I was, and I was still scared. So I can't even imagine the spaces where there is no sex education, where there is no transparency or communication between the parent and the kid. Many girls, okay, sorry, cultural restrictions still exist too. Um, Girls are told not to enter kitchens, attend religious spaces, or even interact freely during their period, reinforcing the idea that menstruation is something very negative and impure. The stigma follows them to school. So, this is again a very widespread and known fact that, according to a UNICEF study, many girls miss school during their periods, not just due to lack of products, but because of shame and fear of teasing. This shows us that menstruation is not just a health issue, but a social issue and an educational one that needs urgent attention. Another issue is the lack of structured, meaningful education around puberty and menstruation. In many schools, topics like periods or sex education are either skipped entirely or are rushed through, leaving students with more questions than answers. So I have brought up with the CBSE education system. Those with the state boards, they don't even have sex education like ever. At least with the CBSE, the central government, the board, we at least had sex education as a compulsory part of our curriculum. So even in the education system, this thing is lacking. It's not there evenly spread across everywhere. And at home, it's often no better. Parents themselves may not know how to talk about periods, especially if they grew up with improper information. As a result, they either avoid the topic or only address when the child's first period arrives. This leads to what we call reactionary education. Girls learn about menstruation after it starts instead of being prepared beforehand. And it's exactly what need to change through better proactive tools and conversations. Then came the primary research phase, where I conducted interviews with young girls, both who already have got their first period or those who even haven't gotten it yet, and even with their mothers. So, to understand the gaps in knowledge, preparedness, and emotional support surrounding menstruation. Interviews with young girls revealed a mix of curiosity, confusion, and limited understanding, highlighting the need of age appropriate, approachable education. And their mothers, though informed and educated now, reflected on their own lack of menstrual awareness growing up and expressed a strong desire to better prepare their daughters with the right education and knowledge and emotional support. Further, to understand the broader picture, I circulated Google Forms to gather insights from both menstruating and non menstruating individuals across India. I wanted to explore how different people across ages and genders perceive menstruation. The survey focused on key areas like their first period experiences, sanitary product choices, men's knowledge about periods, and their involvement in caregiving roles. The goal was to identify these gaps, bust common myths, and understand the attitudes that shape menstrual conversations in our society. These insights were crucial in shaping a more inclusive, relatable approach to period education through my project. Based on the insights and gaps identified in the current system of period education, I decided to create a board game to foster open communication and create safe, stigma free spaces where young girls and boys can understand menstruation and learn how to support those around them. So, why a board game? Because I kept in mind that the game was designed for more than just learning. It's about how the learning happens. First, it builds memory and confidence. The players pick up important facts naturally through play while becoming more comfortable talking about their periods. Second, it encourages dialogue and peer learning. The format promotes open conversations and shared experiences, something traditional education often lacks. Finally, it removes hierarchy. Anyone can play regardless of age, gender, or background, which helps create a safe, equal space for learning and unlearning together. So imagine you are sitting in your house, there's a father, mother, and their kids. It could be a boy, it could be a girl child. And the four of them are sitting together and they are playing this game. So the main point was that the board game basically brings any board game brings people together in a physical space, and they interact and they play. And usually it's always the mother's role to sort of let their children know about periods and everything. Even if it's a boy child, it's always the mother who tells what it is and what it is not, never the father. But in a system like this, mother, father, parents across all genders, kids across all genders come together. And this is where maybe the first step of open communication starts. Even in a school setup, usually the female students are more comfortable talking to female faculty. Like even in college, as I've experienced, it's usually if anybody gets their period, they'll rush to me rather than the class in charge who's a male faculty. So a setup like this would sort of eradicate the main core feature of age or gender, and everybody comes together and everybody gets to take away something out of it. So far, I've followed the design thinking process to guide the development of the game. It began with empathizing through interviews, observations, and surveys. I tried to understand deeply how young girls, parents, and educators perceive. Then came the ideation phase, where I brainstormed possible formats, asked a lot of what ifs, and defined my key goals, especially around inclusivity and ease of understanding. In the prototyping stage, I translated those ideas into early sketches, rough layouts, and quick play tests just to see what worked out and what did not. And finally, I moved to testing, where I gathered real time feedbacks from users, which shaped refinements in visuals, content tone, and gameplay. Thus, presenting Go with the Flow. Say hi to Go with the Flow. This is the logo. It all started with a basic label diagram of the uterus, the foundation of the game, and quite literally, it's on the center of the board. So there's the ovary, the fallopian tube, the uterus, the inner lining that sheds during periods, the cervix, vagina, and through which the blood comes out. This is the board, circular in shape to symbolize the menstrual cycle. The gameplay is very simple. You roll the dice and you move along the 50-step path. There are three kinds of spots. The red ones are know your period. These cards share bite sized facts about periods, hormones, phases, key symptoms, and how it all works. The blue ones are body talks. Based on responses from the survey, the Google form that I had shared, these cards include tips, hacks, affirmations, and everything that women wish they had known during their first period. So, in the Google form, there was a question about what do you think you would suggest your younger selves, or how would you prep them for their first period? And there were like very cute small things. There were affirmations, there were tips and tricks like keep a warm compressor on your lower abdomen where you feel pain, have banana, have dark chocolates, and small bits of informations right there. Then comes the dark spots, which is mythbusters. Given how taboo periods are in India, these cards tackle common myths with facts, helping break the silence and misinformation. So overall, there are no winners or losers in the game. The goal is learning, not competition. When a player lands on a spot and picks up a card, they are required to read it out loud so that everybody gets to learn together. It's also mandatory to have a supervisor, a teacher, parent, older sibling, anyone present during the game. This ensures that the younger players can ask questions and the adult can guide them through any confusing terms or sensitive content. My idea also was to create a larger board so that the group interaction becomes easier and engaging. But to address practical concerns like storage and space, the board is printed on fabric. That way, it can be folded neatly and put in a smaller box. Again, it's a compact triangular box, a subtle nod to the shape of the uterus, trying to keep the design back in the theme. Where I also met Dr. Shroff at Jahangir Art Gallery, where my work was presented. I had amazing conversations with a lot of men and boys as well. Because this became, after a point, it was more like, this is a very girl oriented game or a female oriented game. Why do I need to play this? But there were men who were actually very curious, who were very eager to understand what this is, who also wanted to play the game, which was very exciting. So, out of all the conversations I had with men after creating the game, two stood out deeply, and I'd like to share two of them, both of them here. One is a copywriter from Goa who recalled how his sisters explained periods to him back when he was in sixth grade. They told him a story. So, once upon a time, there was a king and a queen who had a beautiful princess. When she came of the age, the king arranged a grand swayamvar. So, swayamvar in the Indian mythology is basically a royal ceremony where princes from far and wide would come and win her hand. The palace was decorated with golden drapes and fresh rose petals, but no prince arrived. The princess, heartbroken, ended her life. The grieving king and queen cleared away the petals and ornaments and eventually decided to have another child. Again, they had a daughter. Again, a swayamvar was held. Again, no prince showed up. Again, she died. And so the cycle continued. Then, very subtly, he said, "That's right there is menstruation. The king and queen are the uterus, the princess, the egg, the decoration, the uterus lining. The prince who never shows up is the sperm. And every time the sperm doesn't arrive, the lining is shed, the cycle begins again." And that was just so beautiful, such a beautiful way to describe it. Like I was, so while I was designing it, I'll go back here. So while I was designing it, I thought the uterus diagram would be in the center. And maybe the girls who are 11, 12 years of age, and if they are playing it, the guardian person playing with them can sort of explain the process of how the ovary has eggs, travels to the fallopian tube, etc., etc. But then I heard this story, and it was like, I don't need the scientific logical reasoning. I can begin, anyone can begin with this story. And in fact, he also allowed me to use the story if I ever have to in this game, where he just went like, you don't the player doesn't need to be 11 or 12 years old to understand exactly the scientific terms of the process. They can have this story with them. They could probably be 9 or 10 years old and they could still understand what periods is. So beautiful. And the second conversation I had was a more personal experience of this individual. He basically told me about, he shared his, opened up about his experience when he had masturbated for the first time. He was completely unaware of what was happening. He felt an intense rush in his heartbeat, the numbness, and then the ejaculation. He genuinely believed he was dying. The fear was so strong, he thought he might never ever have sex in his life. But the scariest part was that he had no one to talk to, not his parents, not his friends, not even siblings. And years later, he told this to me. Apart from the girlfriend, I am the only person who knows about this. And that happened because of this game, which I feel was truly, like, I felt honored that somebody was able to share such a personal experience with me. And all of this happens just because of a game that we were not even playing. The game as a concept was out there, and we had such thought provoking ideas and conversations around it. So, these both the stories, even though very different, highlighted the same truth. There is a deep lack of open, honest conversations around our bodies across all the genders. So what comes next for me with Go With The Flow is, as this was a very period oriented game, maybe there could be one where I talk about boys' puberty, because at least periods and girls are still discussed. But everything that boys go through during puberty is still left undiscussed. And usually boys don't even find that safe space or a community to talk it out about. So maybe designing a game that addresses the physical and emotional changes that boys experience through puberty, so that even the girls can have the sensitivity, so that we both, all the everyone across genders basically feels more comfortable and is there on one page. Language and accessibility. So initially, I had this in my head that I'll create the game, and I'll later on convert it into all the Indian languages to make it more accessible to Indian audiences. But then during the exhibition at Jahangir, I realized that this is a very serious need across all the countries, not just India. So maybe there could be a translation and content into regional languages and adaptation of information as well, not just India, but also globally. So when it comes to an urban space like Mumbai or Delhi or Bangalore, the game that has been designed so far works very well. But if I have to address the rural areas, I need to begin with just the rawness and the basic menstruation hygiene that is missing and lacking, as they still use, most of them either don't use pads also, or even if they're using, it's just a cloth. So if I have to translate it to other spaces across India or across the world, I'll also have to tweak the content depending on what the space actually what the area or region actually needs. And eventually collaborations, so that I could reach to wider spaces through schools, NGOs, sex educators, gynecologists, so that this reaches even further, and the need of menstrual education sort of gets highlighted even better way. And when we talk about the role of creative tools in education, especially for sensitive topics like menstruation, it becomes incredibly powerful. They help simplify complex ideas and make them more relatable and engaging for young minds. Instead of dry lectures or awkward conversations, creative mediums like games, stories, or art invites curiosity without fear. These tools also break taboos and reduce shame or discomfort when associated with subjects like periods or sexuality. They enhance understanding by turning learning into an experience rather than just information. And most importantly, they help create a safe, open space where meaningful conversations can happen between peers, between genders, and across generations. By using creative tools, we are not just teaching facts, we are nurturing empathy, confidence, and dialogue. So, currently, the existing educational tools that we do have in India are so there's this Period Society, which is a youth-led non-profit promoting menstrual education and equity through workshops, campaigns, and school programs. Then there's Menstrupedia Comics. This is a very interesting segment. You should definitely look up to it. They basically have illustrated comic books and resources explaining menstruation in multiple Indian languages. So they also discuss puberty and everything. And there are already, like, I personally know a lot of parents who are buying these comics to educate their kids about puberty and menstruation. Then there's Project Bala that distributes reusable pads and conducts awareness workshops focusing on myths and hygiene education. And then there's Gulu by Uninhibited India, which is an AI-powered chatbot answering menstruation-related questions in a safe, shame-free way. But overall, like, to create real impact, they must be widely accessible and used across schools, homes, and public spaces. So when I started designing the game, I realized that a game should be something where people should come back to, which is why even the cards that I've designed, the three cards, the three segments that are there, for the time being, these were only 20 because there was a time constraint to submit the project. But as a proper official launch, I do intend to create 50 cards each, like 50 cards about know your period in a better way, 50 cards about the affirmations or the trips and tricks and tips that you need to know and you need to be prepared for, and 50 cards for the myths that are there and busting with the facts that are there. So with 50 cards, every time you come and play the game, there's always a new set of information that you get. It won't be a repetitive thing. It won't be keep you've played it for once and then you shut it and it's just lying in the corner of the room. It comes again, it gives you a new set of information again and again, which is where I think if promoted in the right way and if it is widely accessible and used under the right situations, with the help of the right supervisor, with the students or the players or the girls or the boys across different genders and age, the game has a very strong it could be used as a very strong tool to educate and reach wider audiences. um and yeah, I mean, that is pretty much it. I feel learning should never be scary. It should invite curiosity and confidence, and menstruation is a very natural part. It's not shameful, and we should, all of us should be able to create spaces where anyone can ask, learn, and talk freely. So thank you so much for your time. And I am open for questions if you have any. And here is the QR code for my link tree where you can access my LinkedIn, Instagram, Behance portfolio. So yeah, if there are any questions, please let me know.
Thank you very, very, very much, Professor Kulkarni. That was amazing. I feel like the whole world could benefit from these ways of really learning about menstruation education. And to bring a creative lens to this is really just what we need, because we live in this world in which the female body is just shrouded with so much shame, and it just results in so much suffering. So all of this making it fun and creative, and all the colors and your beautiful images of the uterus have absolutely made yeah, a magnificent contribution to menstruation education. Patricia, could I ask that we go now into gallery mode and we turn off the view, because we've got questions now. Yeah, thank you so much. So I invite you all now to make comments, ask questions, and I see that Gulris
Yeah,
has something to say, so please do go ahead.
thank
Gul.
you. My question is there any educational values or the system that is implemented in high school level in India?
Okay, so at least what I am aware of, we do have a biology chapter across all the three or more educational boards that are there. But usually, what we have noticed in school is that when the topic gets introduced, the subject gets introduced, it's usually a very brief, a very short version that is just explained and then rushed, or it'll be like you go home and read about it. It's never a proper communication. It's never, in fact, in the state boards, it's in the 10th standard that they get to learn about reproduction and the bodies. And again, it is never discussed openly or properly in the school setup. It's just rushed through because there's lots of awkwardness even with the teachers and among the students. So that is one thing. Sex education has is slowly becoming a part of our curriculum, where at least once a year there is a group of people who come in, and but again it's females in a separate room and males in a separate, girls in a separate room and boys in a separate room. It is never everyone together. It is never a shared knowledge system where everybody is educated about periods and puberty together. It's never addressed together. It's always separate.
Mm,
Thank you.
yeah. Thank you, Gulris. Yeah, so Kiran, yeah, it would be really great to just hear a little bit more about that. You know, my heritage is also from India, and
Mhm.
my grandmother, so this is a long time ago now, right? Two generations back, when she was menstruating, even though in the Parsi community, this is not very common, but women were put in a separate room, and food was slid under, like, you know, they were literally not allowed to sort of interact with people, and an iron plate was sort of put under the door to feed her.
Mhm.
So, you know, really like cloistering a woman off as if she's very dirty. Like, that was the whole idea, that menstruation is dirty. A menstruating woman, you know, is a problem. And religiously, in our religion, she wasn't allowed to say her prayers at that time, which means that women could never become priests. So we only have male priests because of this whole idea that menstruation is dirty. So even in, in the Parsi and the Zoroastrian community, these kinds of things happen. And typically women's rights are very, we're very powerful women in our community. So this happened 3 generations ago. So I don't know if you can talk a little bit more about in India today. There have been things like Padman, and you would think now that there's this huge explosion of interest in menstruation in India. So love to hear more about the modern day reality.
Okay, so if we talk about the ancient times, it was when the stove and everything was on the ground, and the women usually had to squat down and work when they had to do dishes or when they had to cook. So during those 4 days, it was more like you rest and take care rather than, oh, you're impure and you can't come. So even the separate spaces, the separate arrangements were also so that the women in the house could rest during those 4 days in her life or the month. But over the years, like Chinese whisper, you start with something and it blows up to something else. So over these years, instead of becoming a very scientific, logical, precautionary method, it just blew up to being, oh, this is impure, oh, you're not supposed to do this, oh, you're not supposed to do that. Like even I remember until the last generation, even my dad's brother's wife, they have suffered in a joint family situation where she has stayed separately. She used to sleep on the floor. She'd wash her own dishes, her own clothes, and everything. There was still a generation, like a thinking mindset mentality gap that was still there, and until the last generation, like at least what last two, or maybe yeah, 2 generations back, and then we are seeing the change that is coming eventually, maybe through awareness itself. And movies like Padman, there are lots of NGOs, there are lots of brands that are doing CSR campaigns. There's just this um, so usually we've noticed a series of trends. So sustainability comes as a trend and then goes away, or feminism comes as a trend and then goes away. But when it comes, it really sends out great messages, great advertisements, great movies that people can still hold on to. With Padman, many people at least came to know that there were a lot of differences that are there. Um, and we still in India, there is still a huge tax also that we pay for the pads that we buy, which again becomes a very for feminists, it becomes a very alarming point. But there are still a lot of differences. At least with brands like Menstrupedia, comics, and everything, where we are seeing that the parents themselves are taking that step to educate their children in a better way. Maybe things like that, slowly and steadily, we could sort of go to a space, reach a space where everyone is comfortable enough to talk about it. There is no shushing, there is no misinformation, no misguiding anyone. Let's hope that day comes soon. But yeah.
Oh, yes. Let us hope that day comes soon, and your game and all of the work that you're doing and that many of us in this Zoom room are doing is helping us to get to that day. Um, I just want to ask, we've got Dr. Andy Ugo, and I'm guessing that some of the other people who are here are from countries outside of India. I'm wondering if any of you would like to comment on how girls learn about menstruation in the places where you work, and if you feel like this kind of a game would be helpful in your work. One of you said you were a midwife in the Arctic. So maybe you could comment on your work and just see. So please go ahead. I think this is the kind of forum we really want to promote. Like just see, like, could a game like this be helpful in your work?
Hi, yeah, I'm Barb, and I am a midwife working in the far north with an Indigenous population. And I want to know how I can get access to one of your games and bring it here and share it around. Yeah, I've learned recently, and I'm very new in this role, so I don't have a lot of expertise or experience yet, but I've been told, well, we know the birth rate here is very high in our Indigenous population, and the women start having children at very young ages. And a lot of that stems from really a lot of modesty. They call it modesty, but it's shame and fear of talking and asking or educating our young ones about things like their bodies and how it works, and contraception and fertility. And I just feel like this would be a good place to start. But there is all kinds of a lot through colonization. There used to be a tradition of a moon ceremony where when a woman has her first menarche, there was a big celebration, a moon ceremony held among women, but the men in the community would know about it as well and be a little bit jealous that they didn't get to have a moon ceremony. But it was a lot of teaching for that young woman, young person, to learn about her body and her welcoming into womanhood. And so I feel like they really would love to bring these traditions back, but we have to first undo a lot of the damage that was done through colonization and stripping away the freedom to talk about their bodies and menstruation. That's all I have to say, I think, but I'm really excited. I think this is great for our community, this community up here.
Yeah, thanks, Barb. So Kiran,
And
if
hi,
you
Farah. I remember you were my teacher in midwifery school.
Oh, hi.
At
So
McMaster? You're,
uh,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, amazing. Oh, you changed your okay, so happy to see
A
you.
long time ago.
It was a long time ago back in Ontario when I was teaching and when you were a student. Yeah, fabulous to see you again. So Kiran, can you put in the chat how people can buy the game?
Okay, so currently I'm still working on the patenting of the game because that's not yet done. Um, Once that is done, it'll be available up. Like I don't know, I can let you all know. Maybe I can get the email list from Dr. Fra and then I could let you all know. Because currently I'm still working on a lot of different aspects and it is not yet launched officially. So there's still some more months to go.
Okay. Okay. So what I would recommend, put your email and people can email you, okay? Just put that in the chat and then Barb can email you and then that way you can keep a list so that you can send it out. Yeah. Um, I wanted to say, Barb, in the community that I belong to in India, I personally had a fertility ceremony. So there are many cultures around the world that do celebrate menstruation with joy. And because the community that I belong to is shrinking, the Parsis are shrinking, like really, like every, two people are having maybe one child. So you can imagine how quickly we're declining, and that's in India. It's a product, I think, of having really highly educated women and empowered women who don't necessarily want a lot of kids. Yeah, many factors like that. But we do have a celebration, and I remember wearing a sari for the first time when I menstruated, and the family it was a really like beautiful ceremony. So I felt like I had become a woman, and this was wonderful. And I really do hope that cultures around the world do get to reclaim those ceremonies and to teach young women just how amazing it is once you get your period and what all the beauty of that is. There's we wouldn't have a world if women didn't menstruate, right? We just wouldn't have
So,
people.
in India, like in my community as well, we have a celebration. Like on the first period, I remember I was given a lot of gifts, a lot of dresses, a lot of money. It was all very nice. But then again, with respecting and valuing and celebrating that, it still follows with a lot of secrecy and shame. And that is something that needs to be changed. Like here we value so much. We sort of worship the goddesses, but then when the girls in our house menstruate, when women in our households suffer through a lot of different things, we don't exactly act upon it. So that is one very major hypocrisy that is relevant not just in India but like everywhere across the globe, and that sort of needs to get changed as soon as possible.
Here. May that change. And what Barb was saying about colonization here in Canada is also very true in India, because like you said, Kiran, Indians have worshipped goddesses, very powerful goddesses like Kali Ma and Durga. It's not that Indians haven't seen women as powerful, but maybe the past 500 years or so have really changed with British imperialism. So if Indians can go back to some of the older culture there really are many sex positive, body positive messages within the culture. Yeah. And Dr. Ugo was saying, yes. Yeah, would you like to unmute, Dr. Ugo? We'd love to hear from you.
Hello, everyone. So I'm so happy to hear all these techniques. Is good, and then this will be helpful in a rural area where less education and less enlightenment is given based on the menstruation cycle, and then it will be good if this technology is being developed. And I'd like to say kudos to Prof for well done techniques and outcomes and all these things, which is very good. And my major are obstetric and gynecology, so it will be helpful in my area. And I would like to get the answer of it to educate people on this, especially in the rural area. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ugo. It's wonderful to have you here from Nigeria talking about your work as an obstetrician. Yeah, so Kiran, see, you have people who are seeing from around the world, right? Barb in the Arctic in Canada, midwife working there, Dr. Ugo in Nigeria. Yeah, so we've got people from around the world who are really seeing the benefits of your work. Is there anybody else who would like to say anything? David Oginga, Tanuja Harad, Maria Adwa, and any of you, please go ahead. I'm sure that you have lots to say. We have lots of time too. Anything that anybody would like to add? I did want to ask you, Kiran, a little bit more about what you were saying about how you thought that the game was really.
Sorry to ask, please.
Oh, please go ahead.
Yeah, have you tried it in one of your rural area and see how outcome it comes in, your results, and see how it is? Have you been trying it before? That's my question. And then what result did you get out of it? Did they buy into it, or did they see it as a normal talk play? Thank you.
Okay, I didn't get the last part, sorry.
No, I'm saying, did you try this stuff in a rural area, and how is the outcome? Did they see it as a helpful to them or a kind of a talk game to them? So thank you.
Okay, so I haven't exactly tested the game in the rural areas yet because I know that I have to work on a different set of information to give out to them. The stuff that I'm using right now is perfect for tier 1, tier 2 cities, but maybe not the rural areas yet. But during the exhibition that I had in Jahangir Art Gallery, there was a school visit that was there, that was happening right there, and there were a few girls from rural areas in that group. And very surprisingly, it was the male teachers, the male faculty who showed interest in the game, who gathered everyone together, and they made me explain the entire game to those girls. And because of time constraint, they weren't able to play it, but they were very excited to sort of know more of what is coming. And during the prototype testing that I did for the game, it was 5 sets of girls at 2 different times. And in both the groups, there were 2, 3 girls who hadn't gotten their period yet. And now when they do, they recall the game and they were a little relaxed because they sort of knew what they were getting into or what was going to happen to them. And I got that feedback as well, that, we Didi, remember we played with you, and now we remember what you were talking about, what the game was about. And that was something that I felt was really a very positive boost in the direction where I'm planning to take this game ahead. But I'm definitely interested in creating and developing a mm, a tweaked version of the game for rural areas as well, so that it reaches in the right way. Because the stuff that I've described right now is very it's already there. Like, we already know what it is, and there's no shame, at least in conversations in places like Mumbai. But in the rural areas, I'll have to start with the need to have these conversations to begin with, to sort of simplify and normalize periods in general. So that would be a different set of information that I'm working on. It's gonna take some time though.
Okay, well, kudos and well done. I hope to see the final stage. I will be first person to be in line to get it. And I want to ask if it's going to be in the software or a kind of a hardware. Is it like a word, like example, if you're playing a word, or is it going to be like in the software where you have it in your phone to then play the stuff? If
So my
when you
plan,
finally develop it, that's what I'm trying to say.
okay, so my plan was to keep it a physical game as it is, because nowadays kids are anyway on their phones. So to sort of get them out of the phone, make them sit with you and play with you and interact with you. So the idea was to keep it an offline system where the board is physical right there. But I'm also planning to work on the templates so that it could be maybe something on Amazon or a link that you can buy from, and you just download it, you print it out. I would still suggest you print it out, and maybe that huge paper could be in the front, the cards could be on the phone, and the interaction just needs to be there in a physical space, not something on the phone or a software or an application. Maybe a printed template could be something that you could buy and then play together. But the goal is to sit together in person and play it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Yeah. I'm wondering if anybody else has any thoughts. Like, I'm wondering, Gulriz, if you think that a game like this would be helpful for girls in Iran or other places where you may have worked.
Okay, as far as I know, in Iran, usually they reacted very normally, routinely, but there's a taboo, especially in villages, small towns. People, they don't talk, they don't get involved. Man or their brothers or their father being included, being informed. So you keep everything under the rug and in silence. That's what it is.
So, but do you think that there would ever be an opportunity, maybe in Tehran or any of the bigger cities, for
Is a possibility.
yeah?
The only backward thing is happening in Iran that last 46 years, because of the Islamic system control, they completely put away all the educational regarding to these matters.
Mm. Yeah, so it's really difficult to go through because of the current government. It's really hard
Right.
to do this kind of
Correct.
education. Yeah,
Correct.
that's too bad.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
So we still have so much work to do around the world, don't we?
Yes.
That's what we're seeing. Yeah. 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 Okay, anybody else want to say anything? I want to really make it open to all of you. Barb, do you have any other thoughts?
No, I'm happy to have the contact information to try and order this game. I know you said initially, I think there's 20 cards in each category, but you're hoping to increase them to 50.
Yeah.
So I
So
don't
with
know
the
if I should wait
testing,
or when that might be done.
I'm waiting primarily for the patent process. Like I'm trying to still understand and navigate through how I could safeguard and protect it under my name. And that is taking some time because it's involving a lot of research and a lot of thought to go over. But the information for the 30 more cards that I have to do is already with me. I just have to design that. It won't take much time. That could be done. But
Okay.
yeah.
And Kiran, did you do all the drawing yourself? Is that like
Yes.
all your, oh my gosh, your drawings of the uterus are so beautiful and the colors are so vibrant.
So the whole idea was to keep it very kids friendly, but also a little mature because the topic is not that childish. It needs to have that certain maturity as well. So that's why the pastel shades and everything. And again, this was a very time sensitive thing. I was rushing out for my deadline and I really had to submit as soon as possible. So I just stopped at 20. I was like, okay. Because after a point, I really didn't know where to stop because there was so much to get into, and there were a lot of different things that I got to learn for the first time myself in this entire process. So it was just at many points it was overwhelming because I was unable to understand where to stop because I really had to submit it on a deadline, and I was stuck with oh yeah, this information is important. Oh, I could still work on this. I could still do that. Still do this. But yeah, it it just because of the deadline it was sort of rushed. But now that I have time to properly develop it, I see a lot of different things that could be added and done in a better way.
Mm. Well, you've got time to do that, but I actually did get to see it in person because that's how we met, right? We met at the Jahangir Art Gallery, and I got to see this, and so here we are a few months later with you doing this webinar. I I think for those of us who work in the health field, to have people who like you, Kiran, who are creative designers and who don't necessarily come from a health background, but really help move health education forward. I feel like that's a very exciting marriage to bring that really creative lens to the work that we do. We need more of this, and I really hope that this game gets out there, that Dr. Ugo in Nigeria can use it, that Barb can use it up in the high Arctic in Canada, and that it gets all over India and it contributes to the cartoons and the other things that you were saying are already out there in India. So with that, I'm going to close our webinar for today with great thanks to you, Kiran, and to great thanks to all of you, to great thanks to Patty and Healthy Seminars for putting this on, to Tomi and Tegbir, who are our webinar leads. Thanks to all of you. And thank you to all of you who are working to make this world a better place for young girls and women, and to bring forth a more equal society so that everybody can thrive. Thank you, everybody, and